I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Joel Sain, joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. We're here to discuss episode 1232, narrated by Jonathan Frid. This marks many, many returns. It's a return of Morgan, so the shouting's going to pick back up. I really love Keith Prentice in this episode, how he plays this and how it's written. What did you think of that, Patrick?
It's considering, how Hell's a Pop in the last episode was.
Yeah.
This episode was very mature, very muted, very understated, and I can already tell you what my favorite scene was, but I know you like to ask about that, so I'll hold off. But I think the return of everybody, but especially Josette.
Yeah, Mary Cooper.
It's allergy season in East Tennessee. Really makes it.
Yeah, I really love the return of Mary Cooper in this episode because it drives him a lot of things with Bramwell and especially Catherine. And plus, we're getting some of that. Even though Laura Parker's not in this episode, I love how her character is constantly mentioned. It keeps. If you hadn't been paying attention with this arc, you get it all in this episode too. They always seem to refresh what's happened prior, and I love that about DS. And they tell, because Morgan's coming out of a possession, and Julia Collins, played by Grayson Hall, tells him what's happened. Why? And I love my favorite scene, or so far. Wait, what's yours first? I want to get yours. I know what mine is.
My favorite scene is where she is trying to where Mary Cooper's Josette is trying to get Bromwell to fess up about what's going on, because she knows.
Yeah.
It's clear that she knows. And Mary Cooper, I really hate to say something this superlative, this kind of definitive, but maybe I will, because I can always change my mind. I think she gives, let's say, one of the top 5 best performances on the show.
Yeah.
It is completely real. I buy every word of it. There is nothing stagey about it. There is no acting. There is just a very concerned mother trying to both talk some sense to her son and preserve his privacy and dignity at the same time. And Bromwell is valiantly trying to weasel out of it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to disappoint her, and he doesn't want it to, turn into a thing, and so on. And he's in one of those moments where he knows that, well, everything's fine right now. Catherine's not around, and I'm not driven in that way. And sure, I can probably be a good husband for Daphne. Yeah, sure, I can do this. Yeah, Mom, everything's fine. And it's not. And it's so poignant, and it's so delicate and real and human and strong. I just think it's dynamite.
Yeah, she plays, Mary Cooper plays Josette with the grace and elegance Catherine Lee Scott did in every way. I think they both complement the characters so well, and her reemergence here, the fact that she comes back for this episode, and I love it. I love the fact that Mary Cooper's in this episode, because she makes it all, like you said, she makes it all too real. In every way, she steals this episode from everybody. I love all the actors.
It is amazing how much work and training and discipline and focus and talent has to go into appearing completely real, and because you'd think that would be the easy part. Like, the training is in learning how to, howl like a werewolf or whatever. I was like, no, it's not. It is that level of truth, and it's keeping it interesting at the same time, and what a vibrant and alive performer. I don't know much about Mary Cooper, but and this was always in the past a little bit of a throwaway because before we did this kind of view through, 1841 Parallel Time was this interesting thing that you kind of got through at the end of Dark Shadows, or you got through because you were about to begin Dark Shadows again, or something like that. And so it's like, oh yeah, there's Josette. Wow, there she is, and she's old. What a novelty. And what a disservice. What a disservice to the storyline, and what a disservice to her, because it's just a glorious performance. It's so subtle.
I think the very first episode that Mary Cooper narrates is that's the episode where her character first appears as Josette. And, there are many moments when you watch Dark Shadows that throughout the entire series, you got Josette as a ghost. We only saw Josette as a young person before she died, jumping off Widow's Hill. In our timeline, in this timeline, we get Josette as an older woman, as a full-grown, mature woman, as a mother, as somebody who did marry the man she loved. There was no witch.
She is an older woman with
she is
needs.
Sorry, she is an older woman, right? And to see Mary Cooper do that was just, when I first saw her and they introduced her, I'm like, oh my God, this is Josette as an older woman. This is something we've never gotten. It was shocking when I watched it for the very first time, but it was pleasantly shocking. It wasn't something like, I wasn't offended by it. I wasn't like gut punched by it. I was just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then there's Mary Cooper, the actress who plays her and does this superb job perfecting the character. And she doesn't get a lot of episodes to do it. It's not like she's in every episode.
She is one of these women like Isabel Hoops and the woman who plays Bathia Mapes, who is a very fine Irish actress, I believe.
Yeah.
And Madame Finlay.
Yep.
There's this echelon of these brilliant, late middle-aged actresses who appear briefly on the show and just mop up the floor with the cast, because the one actor in that age range that we are used to is Joan Bennett, the great Joan Bennett. But it's like I keep trying to get you to watch this movie, My Favorite Year. Now, I've mentioned that before. Have you watched it yet?
No, not yet.
It's this great moment where Peter O'Toole, playing this Errol Flynn type actor, performer, is given this great challenge, and it scares the hell out of him. It's being on live TV, and the guy says, "Come on, you can do this. You're an actor." And he says, "I'm not an actor. I'm a movie star."
Yeah.
And there is a difference in Joan Bennett. God love her, queen of movie stars, but she's a movie star, and it is a very MGM grand performance that she does, and is wonderful. It's perfect for the show. And then there is a real honest God stage actress, and it's just a different animal. I don't know if the show would have been a success with someone like that in the lead as Elizabeth Collins Stoddard. They might have been too understated. Joan Bennett just carried the sense of grandeur with her everywhere she went. But by God, there is a sense of realism and truth to.
Let's play a game of what if. Let's have a little fun here. Let's take two different actresses and put them in the role of Elizabeth. Let's do Mary Cooper first. How do you think Mary Cooper would have fared as Elizabeth?
I mean,
go ahead. I gotta go get my daughter.
I don't know what he's going to do now. I suspect he's going to reason with her. He's a very gentle man. And I'm sure everything's fine. Being a parent is a very complicated thing. I've never done it myself, but I've read pamphlets about it, and These are, is there blood on his hands? Um, Hi, George. And so that's how I think she would have done as Elizabeth Collins Stoddard.
Oh, good.
I rest my case.
I think she would have did a good job. Really, I do think she would have. It'd have been a lot different than what Jen would have played it. I think, which is the point. So let's pick another actress. How about Angela Lansbury?
You're really being unfair to Joan Bennett. I mean, I mean, as a Dark Shadows fan, I sort of have a union card, and I am forbidden from saying certain things, and there are certain party lines I have to toe. I think Angela Lansbury would have been a very accomplished and memorable Elizabeth Collins Stoddard.
She would have been. She would have been.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, she would have been very, very, very good.
That's like saying, how do you think Einstein would do sitting in for you in the math section of the SAT? Pretty well.
I'm not asking loaded questions here tonight at all.
It's like you got a 5-year-old bully on the playground. How do you think he'd do if we send in George Foreman after him?
Oh my God. My favorite scene of this episode here, I love Keith Prentice's Morgan Collins' reaction to he thought he beat the curse. He thought he succeeded.
Yeah. Oh, when he's coming out of it.
Yep.
How'd I do? I did okay, huh?
Yeah. No. He thought he won, and I can't blame him. I mean, this is a guy who has to sell that he's literally not been in his body the whole time, and he sells it beautifully.
And that has to be one of the great blows to his ego. That is one of the contributing factors that makes him get all goofy.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's something I was just going to bring up to you. That I think that right here, once he gets told that he didn't succeed, and he asks what happened, then Julia explains to him that he was possessed by a man named James Forsythe, a ghost, and he asks where Catherine is. Where's Catherine been? Now, I give Julia Collins a lot of credit because, though Morgan goes looking for Catherine, Julia does tell him, well, she was by your side that whole time when you were possessed, which is true. She was. Julia is not telling him a lie. It's really good. I love the interaction between Grayson Hall and Keith Prentice. And even though we don't get Laura Parker in this episode, I love how her presence is in this episode.
Absolutely.
Very, very well done by the actors to keep the character fresh. And I love, even though we don't get this scene, I love the fact that Morgan says, I'm going to the cottage. I'm going to the Stokes cottage. We don't get it. We don't see it, but it's cool that they do that. They make that little mention.
Yeah.
Really, really great camera work too. My favorite little shot in this, like where they seem, is when Daphne is getting ready to pass out, when she's getting ready to faint, and you hear Keith Prentice's Morgan, Daphne, and you hear Julia. It's really great camera work, and I love how they shoot it. What's yours?
It's that scene with it's the two-hander that Josette and Bromwell have.
Yeah,
it's so mature, but the whole episode's mature, and I really love how sincere everyone is when they talk about how Catherine really stuck by Morgan.
Yeah,
possession. That she didn't take advantage of the situation or anything like that. I don't remember if she did or she didn't. I know Bromwell got kind of wacky in the garden.
Well, in a lot of the episodes that he's possessed, that Keith Prentice's Morgan Collins is possessed, she does stick by his side. It was just the episode prior where she had enough. Because here's this, we've talked about this throughout these entire episodes. Here's this woman who did not believe in this room at all. I mean, she was very much a doubting Thomas about the whole thing. And she should be. She's an outsider in every way, shape, and form. Even when she's married, she's an outsider in a sense. She doesn't view that room the way any of them do at all. And you sort of you sort of, when she comes down the stairs mad in the prior episode to this, when she ends up kissing Bramwell by the end, you sort of wonder, is she still feeling that same way when she comes downstairs and she's mad, she's frustrated at Gabriel? It's really great work by Laura Parker and the writers to sort of leave that sort of question, because I get the sense of, yes, she is. She doesn't necessarily still believe in that room in a lot of ways. She just thinks this is crazy to her.
It's hooey. It's a bunch of hooey.
It is. Well, to her, I mean,
Just a bunch of hooey.
Imagine taking like a bunch of people who believe in something, an entire family, for instance, and you get this outsider who's like, this is just crazy. No, I don't believe this at all. So, and there's no convincing them either.
It's Jewel, I got to tell you, it's like being an atheist on Thanksgiving. And everybody's washed their hands, and then everybody wants to hold hands. And it's like, I just washed my hands, and now you want me to, can I just bow out politely and come back for coffee? I'll just go to White Castle or something. I don't mean to be disrespectful. But yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I've had that moment.
You could sit down after we serve the food, Mr. McCray, and then your plate will be ready.
And it's like, from a, post-COVID and all of that, okay.
Oh my God. I really like how Daphne is in the bed. She's sick. The prophecy that Carrie saw is going to come true. A little spoiler alert for future episodes.
Yeah.
I've told you before, I do think, though Carrie Stokes saw a vision, I sort of think this is the room doing this to her.
Oh, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful observation. This room is very powerful, and Brutus is very powerful. But I thought of something today, and it may be a thread on the sweater of 1841 parallel time that I don't want to pull too hard. Do you want me to pull the thread or not?
Go right ahead, sir.
So Brutus is so angry.
Right.
And maybe his sister has something to do with it, but I don't think so. He is so angry at his wife,
yeah,
is not a Collins,
yeah,
by marriage only,
right,
and James Forsyth, who is not a Collins,
yeah,
that he decides to put a curse on all the Collinses.
yeah.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute. No, this curse should be on business partners and on people who marry into the family. They're the people whose names should be on the lottery slip. How does he rationalize, other than the fact he's a crazy occultist, which, pretty much says it all, how does this one work out?
I'll tell you exactly.
We
covered this a bit in episode 1231, but I'll put the icing on the cake for you here. It's because his kids already hated him. They talked about that in the prior episode. They talked about how much his kids did not like him, and his kids were even willing to testify with James Forsyth. That's mentioned it's mentioned very briefly that his kids would go against him. Now, the one person who would not, because she believed in him, she believed in how good he was Constance.
Yes.
Once Constance betrays him and sees him for the man he really is, everything's been safe. Yeah, in the room. And it happens in the cursed room too. And when he kills her, that's when he curses the family.
Constance.
Yep.
Constance.
Yep. It's
so bad sisters are who have to go in the room.
Constance and we're going to get something here too that I'm going to bring back up when we get to the final episode. But Constance is the straw that breaks Brutus's back and everything.
Okay. All right. I done been schooled.
No, it's in the it's really, like, go back and watch the flashback. It's really
you learned me good.
I love Grayson Hall's portrayal of Constance. She's really important to the arc of it, to the whole thing, because when we hear James Forsythe say Constance and he tries to choke Julia Collins, it's like, wait, how bad is this Constance? And then you see, well, she's just a woman who's blindly loyal to her brother. This
It
is
it becomes like Dark Shadow's loaf after a while, and you really have to, you know, pay attention to those details. It's crazy. I mean, I've written 2 books about the damn thing, and I can't remember these things all the time. Yeah, you're right.
it's tough to keep track of. It is. I forgot something too. Well, not in this video, but in a couple videos ago. Uh, we're all forgetful. It's okay. But overall, what are your overall thoughts about this episode?
Um, it is a testament to the breadth of the type of storytelling that they achieve now. That they can go from something as really crazy and fan satisfying as the last one to something shockingly mature and thoughtful, but never boring in this one. And I mean, there are high notes of just raw theatricality that you can go out on. And then there are high notes of being able to tell a very resonant, truthful story about humans. And this is doing both.
If Kate Jackson wouldn't have got Charlie's Angels, do you think she becomes a big movie star? I mean, she's huge on television.
I think she could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, it was one of those things where Charlie's Angels may have been a really bad thing for movies. Not for her, but for movies. Here he is again. He's doing what he did on the Penny Dreadful. Lincoln, please have some decorum.
The cat between Patrick and the cat, they're fighting for co-host.
He sent Penny Dreadful a autograph picture that said, "I'm so glad you could be on my show." Little egotistical cur. I can't believe it.
I like that. I like that. I really love the full range of the actors in this episode. I mean, every episode we're getting solid acting like we always do on DS, and I really love Keith Prentice as Morgan, having the cell coming off the possession, and Mary Cooper just steals the entire episode with Josette, with scolding Bramwell, trying to save his soul and his integrity in every way, like you said. And I love how she's really, in a lot of ways too, trying to save Daphne in every way.
Yes.
She's still like, and even in this episode, I talked about how that Mary Cooper played it with the same grace as Catherine. If you want that cemented evidence, go look at this episode very carefully and watch how she says to Daphne, "I know you're not happy here, and you haven't been happy here," and she knows her son hasn't made her happy either. And
Dark Shadows, I've written about, is a show full of great dads. Yeah. They don't always start out great, but they end up great.
Yeah.
And, not a lot of great moms. Yeah, I mean, Liz Stoddard does what she can, but she had kind of 18 bad years. And, and she has some good moments. However, God, Mary Cooper's Josette just makes up for all of it. I mean, just what a really great TV mom.
Yeah.
And she's a great mom for an adult. Yeah.
She's one of the most grown-up moms we get in the series. And she's somebody who it's all the above with this character. Here's a character you didn't get as an older character in our timeline. Now you're getting that character, and you're getting to see what kind of character she really, really is. We saw glimpses of her alive with Kathleen Lee Scott playing her, and like you said, you brought this up in a video. She played her with such with integrity, and I do believe you wrote it about it in Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound, or the first Dark Shadows Daybook. Apologies, sir. But
All comes together for me too. I don't know.
but it's really Mary Cooper really cements the character of Josette Home, and you can really look at her and look at Catherine Lee Scott, and in every way they're playing the same character, though it's different timelines. They're playing the same one.
And the big difference is no Angelique.
Yep, yep.
What would have happened if there had been no Angelique? This is
Yep.
what would have happened.
Yeah, and 1841 not only asks that question in a sense, it answers it in every way. It's really good. Yep.
So
Is there anything you want to add about this episode, Patrick, before we go?
it's great TV. What do we have? 13 left.
Yeah, we're going to do episode 1233 when we come back. That'll probably be next week, guys, because I'm going to do the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound Thursday, and Patrick will be back Friday with Susie and Dawn. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we'll pick up next week, guys. Patrick, buddy, it is always a pleasure, sir.
It's wonderful, Jewel. Thank you so much. Highlight of my week.
Link to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound is going to be in the description box. If you have not picked up that bad boy yet, go pick it up. It is well worth it. Patrick, you have a safe night, dude.
Be seeing you.
Be seeing you. Bye.